All right, today we're jumping into a really fascinating paradox that sits right at the heart of the early church. And you see it all through the book of Acts. It's this story of how one single message could be so massively accepted and, at the exact same time, so violently opposed.
And that really gets to the core question of this whole explainer. How in the world can a message that's all about love and forgiveness and new life end up sparking so much hate? I mean, it doesn't seem to add up, does it? But as we're going to see, this tension is literally woven into the fabric of the story.
I mean, just look at this. The story of the early church is like two completely different stories mashed together. On one side, you have this absolutely explosive growth. We're talking thousands joining up in a single day, and the community earning this amazing reputation. But then you flip the coin, and that very same message gets people arrested, beaten, and even killed. These two things are happening side by side. Okay, so let's really dive into this strange contradiction, and let's start with the good part, the acceptance. Because the way the gospel was first received, well, it wasn't just positive. It was world-changing. It all just explodes onto the scene on the day of Pentecost. The Apostle Peter, he gets up and gives one sermon, and the book of Acts says 3,000 people were just cut to the heart and joined the movement. This wasn't some slow buildup. It was an absolute flash flood of belief right from day one. And you know, it wasn't just a numbers game. This early Christian community, they had something special. People looked at them, at their unity and how they cared for each other, and they were impressed. Acts says they were held in high esteem. The message was attractive, for sure, but the way they lived it out was just as compelling. But that's only half the picture, because for every bit of that acceptance, there was this huge pushback. That wave of new belief, it slammed right into a brick wall of really fierce opposition that came from all over the place. And this is what's so wild. The opposition wasn't just coming from one group of people. It was coming from everywhere. I'm talking religious leaders, the Roman government, even local business owners trying to protect their bottom line. And, get this, it even came from inside the church itself. So first up, you've got the religious authorities, the Sanhedrin. When the apostles started preaching about a resurrected Jesus, it completely rocked the boat. This wasn't just some friendly theological disagreement. No, this was a direct threat to their power, to their entire system. And their response? Arrest them, beat them. But it wasn't just about religion, it was also about money. Check out this story about a guy named Demetrius in Ephesus. He's a silversmith, and his whole business is making these little silver shrines to the goddess Artemis. Well, what happens when people become Christians? They stop buying idols. His sales plummet. So what does he do? He starts a citywide riot. It just goes to show you, this message hit people right in the wallet. And then there's Rome. The Roman authorities, they didn't really care much about theology. What they cared about was keeping the peace and making sure everyone knew Caesar was the ultimate boss. So when this new group pops up talking exclusively about another lord who isn't Caesar, yeah, that sounds an awful lot like treason. It looks politically dangerous. And that's exactly why leaders like the Apostle Paul ended up in chains. And incredibly, some of the threats came from the inside. The story of Ananias and Sapphira is this chilling reminder that hypocrisy was a real problem. Maintaining the integrity of their witness was a constant struggle. It shows you that the danger of corruption from within was just as serious as the attacks from without. So you've got all this intense opposition coming from every direction. You'd think that's game over, right? That the movement would just fizzle out? But here's where the story takes this incredible turn. This is the central paradox. The opposition didn't kill the church. In a really strange way, it actually fueled its growth. The death of Stephen is the perfect example. He becomes the first Christian martyr, and his death kicks off this huge persecution in Jerusalem. So what happens? The believers are forced to flee the city. But they don't just run and hide. No, as they scatter, they take the message with them. The very act designed to stamp out the movement ended up spreading it like wildfire. And you see this exact same idea from the Apostle Paul himself. He's writing this from a prison cell, and he's basically saying, hey, don't worry about me being in chains. This whole situation has actually been good for the gospel. He saw his prison not as a dead end, but as a platform, a chance to share his faith with people he never would have met otherwise, including the emperor's own guards.
So the big question is, how did they do it? How did they keep going? Well, Acts points to this key idea called parrhesia. It's a Greek word, but it basically means a kind of spirit-given boldness, a confident, fearless speech that let them keep talking about their faith no matter what, even when they were threatened or beaten. It was the secret sauce, the fuel for their resilience.
Okay, so this is all a great history lesson, but why does it matter to us, right here, right now? Well, because this pattern, this whole dynamic of acceptance and opposition, of being a witness in a world that can feel pretty hostile, it's not just ancient history. It's profoundly relevant for today.
Just think about it. The early church was this tiny, kind of weird, and often suspicious group inside the massive Roman Empire. Now fast forward to our world. In what many people call a post-Christian culture, biblical ideas aren't the default anymore. To a lot of people, they can seem just as alien and suspect. The context, it feels surprisingly similar, doesn't it?
So here's the crucial takeaway. If the context is similar, maybe the method should be too. In a world where you can't just assume everyone shares a Christian worldview, the most effective way forward probably isn't relying on big institutions or cultural influence. Instead, it brings us right back to the original model from Acts: faithful, personal testimony. One soul, one conversation at a time. And that leaves us with one last provocative question to chew on. The story of Acts shows that the true gospel is a paradox. It's both comforting and challenging. It brings peace, but it also draws a line in the sand. So, if our witness never seems to encounter any friction at all, if it never faces any resistance, it's worth asking ourselves, are we telling the whole story?